Okay, so as I've mentioned, we'll be talking about human growth and development. It's called Care Across the Human Lifespan. Now, just to let you know, this is going to be a very, very long topic and a very boring one. So just bear with me, okay? Now, we have already discussed regarding human anatomy and physiology in module number one, right? Now, in module number three, supposedly this is module number three, we will be discussing another long topic, which is growth and development. So just like human anatomy and physiology, growth and development topic, these are two different things, but merged into one. When I say growth, that has to do anything with physical growth, like a number of your body that increases in size and in shape and in numbers. Okay. Now, can you like think of any part of your body that you can count, both in growth, I mean both in size and in number? Let's say your teeth, diba? Ang teeth natin dumadami when we're young, dumadami siya from our milk teeth tapos nagiging yung adult teeth na natin. So, yun, mabibilang natin yun. Our, let's say, number of hair, though technically we cannot count all our hairs, but our hair, it grows in length. How about our weight? Our weight, it fluctuates. Sometimes you're thin, sometimes you're not too thin. And then our height, it also increases as we grow older. So anything that has something to do with increasing in size, body, and shape, that's what growth is. So literally yan talaga pagtubo, pagtaas, or paglaki. Okay? How about development? Development naman, kung ang physiology is talks about function, the development, it talks about a physiological and functional maturation of individual, which includes psychological, emotional, and social changes. What do I mean by this? Now, for example, as we grow older, we learn that things are different, right? Now, let's say we mature and we develop in a lot of sense. For example, uh, solving solutions. Solving problems. Diba before when we were younger, we only know addition, subtraction, multiplication stuff. But as you grow older, you know now how to count accounting, backtrack everything, multiply stuff, and then think about what's gonna happen if we're gonna add this, if we're gonna subtract that. So um, knowledge-wise, we improve as well, right? Our social changes, we know now how to handle, let's say, um, we know now how to handle family issues, love life issues, yung mga ganun. So you understand? Growth is very physical, nabibilang, natitimbang, na may measure. But development is not something that you can measure. Nakikita mo siya all over time. For example, your speech, your language, you develop to learn more languages as you grow older. You learn more words as you grow older. This is not something that you can count kasi yung words ang ginagamit natin is something that we cannot count. But the way we understand things, the way we learn new things, that's development. Do you understand? So, yung
Sir,
growth
Yes,
is
sir.
sometimes, ano lang talaga siya physical, pero in development,
Physical,
that is not physical anymore.
logical.
Let's say, body-wise, your maturations, you start to develop breast milk when you're breastfeeding. During our teenage years, a lot of physical has changed in our body. From yung ang babae nagkakaroon sa ng menstruation, ang lalaki, you develop different changes in the body. All of these we're going to discuss as we go along with our discussion today in the next 3 hours. Okay. Before I forget, I've already mentioned this on our WhatsApp group that this what do you call this one? Itong Zoom na to would only last for 40 minutes because we don't have budget to get the official Zoom. So after 40 minutes, if I notice, I will let you know. Otherwise, sometimes I'll be just cut off. But I will send you another link in our WhatsApp group with another session. Okay. So just click on that and join.
Okay, sir.
All right. Now, physical growth, you can take a screenshot of this, but don't worry, I will send the PowerPoint to everyone because,
okay.
hindi tayo nagkakita sa school. So I will send this one to you. But there are only two things I want to highlight on this slide. The first one is cephalocaudal, okay? One of you, during your abbreviations discussion, or maybe not in my morning class, but when we talk about cephalocaudal, it means head to toe, meaning the development starts from the head going to the toe. Hindi ka ingrown tas naging tao. Tao ka muna and then nagkaroon ka ng ingrown, okay? Hindi pwedeng na, na pinanganak ka mula sa mole. Ano bang Tagalog ng mole?
Nunal
Ila.
po.
Nunal.
Nunal.
Hindi ka nunal na tinubuan ng tao. Ikaw isang tao na tinubuan ng nunal. So that's a cephalocaudal development. Another one is proximo-distal. When you say proximo, it means near, and distal is far. Okay? So we develop from the center of our body going outside. So hindi ka muna fingers, and then you have a heart. So when you're a fetus, you start with a heartbeat, and then everything else grows after that. Okay? So that's from middle to or the center to outside, and cephalocaudal meaning from head to toe. Okay, so that's all you need to know from this. Next. Okay, now if you're gonna ask for the stages of human life, imagine we're gonna talk about from womb up to tomb, from infancy up to death. We're gonna talk about that in the next 3 hours, so diba? Bongga. So this is how you divide our lifespan in a very simple manner. So as we were born, it's called infancy. As we go older, we have called the childhood until 18 years old. So early, middle, and late. And then finally, you have late adulthood. Okay, but if you want to dissect everything into details, can you please take a screenshot of this? This is how our lifespan looks like. Okay, infancy, guys, is divided into two. The first 30 days is called neonate. So if you are interested to work in the hospital for newborns or neonate, when you say newborns, it's from day 0 or day 1 up to the 30th day. There is a deviation because, or classification of that, because the first 30 days of a baby is very, very important when adapting to the new world from the womb of the mother into the whole new world. Okay? And then after that, up to 1 year old, it's called infant. Pero yan talaga na page dyan, na sideband, is just called infancy. Okay? As the baby grow older, after 1 year old, normally what happens during 1 year old, the mama will celebrate birthday, very bongga birthday, and spend really a lot of money for the first year of life, even if hindi naman naintindihan ng bata yung mga nangyayari. But that's how Filipinos are. Now, after that, the baby enters into the early childhood stage. It's divided into two. The first 3 years is called toddler. This is the very makulit stage na. And then after 3 years old, now the baby starts to go to a daycare center or preschool. So it's called preschool. Preschool siya kasi literally it's called preschool before the real school, which is from grade 1 to 6. Preschool is K1, K2, and nursery or daycare. Okay. Now, as a child progresses to the school age, which is the grade 1 to 6, it's called now the school age or the middle childhood. And then pag teenager na yung bata, it's now become late childhood, which is adolescent. In some other books, it lasts until 19 years old, but legally, universally, the legal age is from 19 onwards. So therefore, 18 years old and below, it's still considered a child. So in healthcare or in the hospital, it's called pedia, right? So from 17, 18, even if mukha na silang adult, they are still should be handled by a pedia doctor or pediatric doctor, okay? Beyond that, from 19 and 20 years old going onwards, that's already called adulthood. Dito na yung maging less interesting ang buhay natin. Nagiging boring na tayo. So adulthood, so early, from 20 to 40 years old. Diba they said that life starts at 40, right? Is it true? For those students who are more than 40 years old here, is it true? I'm already 36, so my life will just start in the next 4 years. Now, after that, no, para matandaan nyo, life begins in 40. That's the early adulthood. After that, normally our parents will retire at the age of around 60 to 65. So don't forget, middle adulthood is 60 years old, and then the rest is late adulthood until death.
Middle adulthood.
Yes. Now let's digest it one by one. Okay. Now let's talk about infancy. So once again, infancy is neonate and infant for the next 1 month and then the 1 year. And then I will skip this because we will talk about this later on. But for my afternoon class, you're already familiar with Sigmund Freud, Eric Erikson, and then Piaget. I hope you still remember that. But
Yes, sir.
okay, very good. Okay, there. Next, so these are the normal sizes. So, guys, this is very important for those of you who wanted to work in a nursery or in a preschooler environment or in a pedia environment in the future. So, I would really suggest that before you enter and then go for the HR interview, just recall or review your notes regarding the normal developmental stage of an infant or a toddler, kung ano pa man yan ang papasukan ninyo. It is important for us na CNA that you know what is normal so that anything that goes lesser or more than what's normal, you will consider that as abnormal. That will be a red flag for you when you will report to your nurses. Okay? So I will not go into details on this. Anyway, hindi naman memorize. So just review this later on once you, let's say, have an interview or apply for something, specifically for infant. Now, I want to highlight this one. It's called Fontanelle. Okay, so paki-highlight na lang pong Fontanelle or just tell yourself Fontanelle. Fontanelle in Tagalog is bunbunan. Sa Bisaya, I
Yeah.
don't know what is bunbunan in Bisaya.
Hubol.
Hubol?
Hubol.
Yubon, sir.
Hubol. Bunan.
Dili
Hubol,
tubol?
sir.
Okay.
Hubol, sir.
Hubol.
Hubol.
Hobol. Okay.
Sa
So we
Ilocano.
have
Sa Ilocano, lulunan.
lulun. Okay, so we have anterior.
Yes, sir.
By the way, guys, in this picture, the eyes is
Oh, you
here,
have
okay?
to-
Andito yung eyes dito. Okay.
Fontanelle.
So we have anterior fontanelle. When I say anterior, it's in the front, and then you have posterior fontanelle. Posterior means at the back. Okay. Now, what do you have noticed? First, the shape. Itong shape ng anterior fontanelle is diamond. Okay. Ang shape naman ng posterior is triangle.
Triangle.
Now, so if you notice, if the baby, the newborn, the skull is divided into different parts. So, tingnan dito may 1, may 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and 6.
Yeah.
Why do you think that the infant has yung skull na hindi buo? So, imagine mo if the skull is really hard and buo, and then it
Still-
exits the vagina of the mama. So, the vagina of mama will burst into pieces, right? Magiging chicharon ang pepe ng nanay natin. So, that's one reason why the skull of our the babies are soft. It's one way because when you enters the vaginal canal, it will be easier for the delivery of the baby. Okay. Now, as you grow older, it will fuse into one big skull. Okay. Once again, anterior fontanelle is diamond shape. Posterior fontanelle is triangular in shape. Now, noticing this, which one will close first? Yung sa harap or yung sa likod?
Good.
Sa likod.
Sa likod.
Yung mga nagsasabi ng
Sa
likod
likod.
are correct. So if you notice, likod is a little bit smaller, so it will be easier for that to close. So it will close after 1 month, and then the anterior fontanelle will close up to 1 year or 1.5 years. But the question is, what's in it for you? Now, you should know that the head of the baby, which protects the brain, or the skull, which protects the brain, is very critical when you're taking care of the baby, right? So as a nurse, you should know that, number one, their skull is not formed, fully developed yet. Number two, there's a hole, parang may buta siya, which is called the fontanelles. So number one, it will definitely affect the temperature of the baby. Since baby pa nga sila, they don't have much capacity to adjust and to adapt to the environment. So, mabilis silang lamigin, mabilis silang mainitan, number one. So, if iinitan sila, they will be dehydrated, right? Now, number two is, as you all know, it protects the brain. Now, since it's still soft, so definitely the protection is not that strong. So, you have to always support the head of the baby when you're handling or taking care of the baby. Hindi naglalag. Okay, choppy si sir. Choppy or chubby? Okay? Okay na tayo
Guys, okay
dyan?
ba ako?
Happy yung iba daw.
Naglalag eh.
Okay ba yung
Sa akin
ano ko?
naglalag.
Mahina yung wifi ko eh. Pero
Oh.
Nasa wifi
malinaw
nyo
yung
yan.
signal. Siguro nga. Pero okay naman yung signal, yung sound.
Okay.
Okay lang yung mukha, basta makarinig.
Okay. Okay, next. Date. Clear. Ano ba ito? Itanggalin itong mga sinulat ko dito. Okay, there. Next, so that is Fontanelle. So just take note of that because one of the quizzes, kay lalabas yan, it will come out in one of your quiz. Okay?
Fontanelle.
Superior. So superior.
Now, let's talk about reflexes. Okay, this is very interesting. Now, reflexes are normal reflex. It's like parang hindi siya tinuturo. It's just normally comes out of the body of a baby or a newborn. We have few reflexes in the body of in our body when we're young. Until now naman we have a reflex, but when our baby mas ano siya, mas enhanced. Now, let's talk about this one. This is called a rooting reflex. Can you hold your cheeks like this? Okay, according to the studies, when you scratch or stimulate the cheeks of the baby, it will move to that part. So for example, if you're breastfeeding and if you want to feed your baby using your left breast, okay, yung parang nakaganon siya sa dede ng nanay, you just have to stimulate or caress yung cheeks ng part na yon para magta-turn siya to that side. Okay? Now, for example, if yung left breast mo is already sore, pagod na yung left breast mo, and you wanted to move the baby to the other breast, you just have to parang stimulate the other cheeks. Okay? Pag mag-stimulate ka ng gano'n, hahanapin yung side na yon, tapos mag-start na siyang mag-suck. Okay? This is not something that you can teach the child. Siyempre, of course, they don't have background on that when they're still in the womb. So, this is called reflexes. Okay? This is rooting reflex. Right? So, next naman ito, very
Yes.
interesting din to. This is called the grasping reflex. Now, what is a grasping reflex? So, if you hold the palm of the baby like this, or simulate the palm of the
Yes.
baby like this, automatically the baby will hold whatever that is.
Hold
So,
the
normally
finger.
normally naman finger, tapos sabihin mo, oh, I'm the favorite ninang or the favorite auntie. Sorry, but that's not true. It's called reflex, okay? Whatever it is na you put in the palm of the baby, automatically it will start to touch. Two things. Number one is for their development. Later on, when they start moving and they start walking, they have to hold on to the railings of yung kuna or yung something. So they have to touch and move like that. Aside from that, when they start feeding using the bottle, it will parang exercise their fingers or their hands to hold and touch the bottle like that.
To hold the bottles.
Okay, that is called the grasping reflex. Next.
Reflexes.
Ito, Babinski reflex. So please highlight this Babinski reflex. So Babinski reflex is just used to evaluate whether the baby is still conscious or not. Okay, so parang imagine this is the soul of the baby. So you have to like draw inverted letter J or letter S, and the normal response of the baby, if the baby is still conscious, is to move its toes like this, para siyang iwiggle, parang nakikiliti, or curl like this. It means that the baby is still alive or conscious. Now, this is important when you're doing CPR. So in your module number 4, when we start discussing regarding CPR, one way to evaluate whether the baby is still conscious or not is to do the Babinski reflex. So, hindi pwedeng, baby, are you okay? Baby, are you okay? Tapos, titingnan mo lang yung reaction ni baby. Sabi sa baby, okay lang ako. So, pag ganun na baby, you run because of this alien. So of course, you will not understand if the baby is still sleeping or patay na ba talaga ang baby. So what you do the Babinski reflex. All right. Next, the motor reflex. The motor reflex is when the baby is startled, makuga or makuratan, or in Tagalog
Magulat.
Yun, magulat. So if the baby is like startled by a loud noise, normally the baby will like open its arms like this, and then it starts to cry. Oha, oha, oha. Pero interestingly, bakit siya ganito? Bakit hindi na lang yung, uha, uha, oh, bakit hindi na lang ihag yung sarili na, no? Weird, right? You know why? It's because, I don't know, God made it like that, or nature made it like that, because this para motion is an embracing motion. When the baby is scared, automatically their arms were opens widely, so
Let's
that
say,
they are expecting for their mother to embrace them back. Mm.
yeah.
Kaso nga lang lumaki ako na walang nanay. So, yun, okay? Now, that will create an embracing motion or embracing effect ba? Para daw kung sila i-embrace ng kanilang parents when they are afraid. Weird, no? Tapos when you grow older, nobody will embrace you and tell you that everything is gonna be fine. Ikaw lang. Okay, next is extrusion reflex. Surprisingly, the baby pala has its own protection shield or reflex. So when they feel that the food or whatever they put in their mouth is very sour, very bitter, or not the good taste, iluluwa nila yon, or they called it extrusion. So that's one way to help protect the baby from harm. Interesting, no? Next, sucking reflex. So as a baby, sabi ni Sigmund Freud, one of the theorists sa psychology, that the the primary goal ng mga baby is sa infancy is their mouth. Okay, yun ang panilang pleasure zone. So whatever you put in their mouth, that's how they learn. So when the baby, since mouth ang kanilang center of pleasure, whatever they hold, they put it right away into their mouth. So kaya, no, 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 don't eat that, don't eat that. Lahat ipapasok sa bibig. Now, this is for their benefit as well. So when they are starting to grow, they need food, and food comes from the breast milk of the baby. So hindi mo naman tinuturuan yung baby na mag-suck, di ba? So automatic lang siyang lumalabas sa bata. So that's called the sucking reflex. Okay? Now, that's it. Now, this walk-in reflex, just so you know that if you put the baby on a flat surface, if you put the sole or yung paa ng bata in a flat surface, automatic siyang nagaganon yung paa, nagsastomp ng feet. So, hindi porket nagaganon na tapos sumasayaw ng ano ba mga bagong kantang
Sinasabi
yan?
nila gusto,
Mini,
sinasabi
miss
nila
you,
gusto mo nang maglakad.
I miss you. Oo, hindi yan totoo. Actually, gusto nilang marunong silang magsayaw. So, hindi yan totoo. It's called the reflex. Okay, again, in preparation for the baby na to start walking on their own. Okay, now immediate care is in the hospital. So in the hospital, guys, I want to ask you, how many doctors are in the delivery room? Ilan kayang
Three.
doctors sa
Three.
delivery room?
2 to 3.
Dalawa.
2 to 3.
Four?
Oo, 2 to 3 yun. Hindi, 2 to 3 siya.
Or pag artista ka at sikat ka.
Dalawa, sir?
Nung sa akin, sir, 2.
Okay, ako din, dalawa din sa akin nung nanganak ako. Char.
OB-GYN siya.
Yes, very good. There are only 2 doctors. OB-GYN, which is yung doctor ng nanay, and then the pedia, which is the doctor of the baby. So once the
The
baby is
baby, oo.
born, there will be 2 patients now, the mother and the baby. So the baby will be taken care of by the pedia, while the nanay will be taken care of by the OB.
The
Okay?
doctor.
Yes.
Doctor.
Now, can you say this? Kangaroo care. You don't have to unmute yourself. Just say that to
Kangaroo
yourself.
care.
Kangaroo care.
Yes. Oo. Yun. Kangaroo care, it comes from the concept ng kangaroo. Di ba yung nanay na kangaroo at saka yung anak ng kangaroo, meron siyang sack or pocket? By the way, anong tawag mo sa baby kangaroo?
Joey.
Joey.
Baby Joey.
Okay, correct. So mga, for others who don't know, it's called Joey. Okay? So, have you ever came across this concept na pag ang baby daw kuno hindi naka-adapt to the environment outside the mother's womb, they need a skin-to-skin contact with their parents. So, this is the concept, it came from this concept na ang nanay, every single day in the morning, they parang remove their patient's gown, tapos kailangan nila magkaroon ng skin-to-skin contact with their baby to promote relationship and bonding. Okay? Yun yung point na yun. And then, finally, hopefully, ang baby can adapt to the outside environment. But, unfortunately, there are some babies that really do not cope with the environment. So namamatay sila because hindi sila maka-adjust sa earth. Doon lang sila sa womb ng nanay. Yun. Sad. Anyway, next. Now, let's talk about breastfeeding. I will have a different discussion regarding breastfeeding during your demonstration regarding bottle feeding. Okay, so I'll discuss more on that later. Okay, now, can you say this? It's Vernix caseosa. Ano ba yun?
Vernix caseosa.
Yes. So, do you recall or do you see a movie that paglabas ng baby, when the baby exits or when the baby is delivered, just right outside the vagina of the mother, you'll see parang a wax or oily or petroleum na cheese-like substance from the baby. That is called the vernix caseosa. Hindi yan tamod ng tatay na natira doon sa loob ng pepe ni mama. Okay? So, it's not true. It is actually a vernix caseosa. It's a protecting lining ng baby against the amniotic sac ng nanay and also protection against environment. So when the baby exits the mother's body and then it will parang adjust to the world. So meron pa rin siyang protection, which is that. And aside from that, maging lubricant din ng nanay when they exit the vaginal canal. Vernix caseosa. Okay? Next, say Creed's prophylaxis. Just say that silently to yourself. Creed's prophylaxis. A lot of children during the old times daw kono got blind because they have had a study na when the baby enters the vaginal canal, the vagina of the mother has a lot of bacteria. And then unfortunately, a lot of babies na hindi na-detect yung infection sa nanay na vagina, it enters the eyes of the baby, tapos na-infect ang eyes ng bata, and then finally, naging blind. So they have done a lot of studies on that. Na lahat, every or all deliveries, they should do Creed's prophylaxis, meaning that they will put an ointment in the eyes of the baby of a newborn the moment it exits the vagina of the mother, just to prevent getting an infection from the vagina of the mother. Yun. Madumi talaga ang vagina ng mother. Hindi ko din alam kung bakit siya kinakain. Pero, yeah, charot. Char lang. And then the infection is called ophthalma neonatorum, which you don't need to know, just good to know. Okay. Aside from that, we are also being injected by vitamin K to prevent the bleeding. Kasi since ang baby nga hindi pa siya, the body of the baby is very fragile, so and then the doctor will not be able to determine right away if there's any abnormality. So just to prevent bleeding, they inject us immediately with the vitamin K. Okay. And for identification, guys, they don't use like picture or whatsoever. They use footprints. Yeah. Okay. Parang ganyan. So makikita ninyo how many digits of the baby. So obviously, meron kayong 10 toes, 5 on each foot. Now, aside from that, interestingly, guys, if you will notice that a normal baby has a shape of a foot like this. Yung parang pa-curve. Parang pa ganyan. Ganyan. But did you know that for a Down syndrome daw, they don't have a curve. Ang Down syndrome na baby, if may Down syndrome ang bata, is just circle like that. Aside from that, a normal baby has creases. Meron siyang mga ganyan-ganyan, yung mga linya-linya sa paa, okay? But a Down syndrome baby, they don't have. Parang flat lang talaga siya. So if the baby, like if you're taking or if you're bathing a Down syndrome baby and yung footprint niya or footmark niya is just below, it's just circle without creases, then you have to have your baby checked by a pedia or a developmental doctor just to check whether the baby is normal or not. Okay. Next, umbilical cord, we will discuss this later when I'm going to discuss regarding the baby's bed bath. Now, okay, so we're done now with the first part, which is the newborn. Now let's go to the infancy, which is from 1 month up to 1 year old. Okay. Now, interesting lang dito sa 1 year, up to 1 year old is this chest circumference. Diba, this is the ulo of the baby, this is the head of the baby. According to the study, dapat daw kuno ang head ng baby is yung circumference ng head ng baby is equal to the circumference ng chest ng baby. So the head should be equal to the chest. Now, what happens if the head is bigger than the chest? Have you heard of hydrocephalus, right? So I'm not saying that the baby has hydrocephalus. It could be that the baby is hydrocephalic. So these are like things that you have to know now, which is normal and which is not normal. So if it's no longer normal, why is the baby still smaller than the circumference of the chest, than the head? So baka meron siyang problem. So either hydrocephalu, or meron din tayong tinatawag na Zika virus. Okay, you can check on the internet what is that, but this is an infection or a virus caused by a mosquito bite. So instead of having a brain like this, okay, your brain is just like this. Kawawa yung baby. Dapat ang baby is, yung face ng baby is like this, but the baby's head is just like this. So parang may area dito na kulang. Okay? So I only have less than 1 minute now. So this will end shortly and I will get back to you through WhatsApp with the new link. Okay? Bye.
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 Yes, sir.
Sir. Ibinig ni sir.
Sikomayos.